All right, so lower respiratory tract really refers to now we're in the trachea and the branches off of the trachea to get into these bad boys, which are the units of respiration that are in there called the lungs. And I want you to look at the difference between the lungs. This is the right lung, this is the left lung. What feature do you see on the left lung in order to make room for another organ? An indentation. Well, this portion here is called the cardiac notch. And if that notch is present, that's how you know it's the left lung. Okay, and it's also a little more narrower because of how the heart doesn't really sit in the middle, it sits towards the left. And that's why this lung is a little bit narrower than the right lung. And we're going to take a look at some swine lung shortly before you leave so you can see what lung looks like. So here's the trachea, and there's a special term for the division of the trachea. My students never miss this one. You're welcome. Okay? So right side and left side. Let's look at the first branch off of the trachea is the start of what is known as the respiratory tree. And that's why we refer to it as branches, because that's what they look like. The first branch, we got the right primary bronchi or bronchus and left primary. What two things do you see already as a difference? Because this is now, should be within the lungs, but we've taken the lungs out and we're just looking at following the passageway from the trachea. So what do you see between the right and the left primary bronchus?
Right shorter.
The right is shorter and a little fatter. And then this one is skinnier and it kind of curves because we have to go further left because we have what there? The heart. And that's where we had the cardiac notch or that indentation, right? So where do you expect if someone's epiglottis didn't function properly, in which side would it get easier down there?
The right.
The right. Y'all all got that? So the right primary bronchus is most commonly has, you know, a kernel of corn, popcorn, what else? Hot dog, grape. These are the most commonly choked on items. Okay, and that's not funny. So what do? Heimlich maneuver. But if it's getting there, you know, you really got to Heimlich that. So once we get to the primary bronchi, it branches off even more. And these are known as secondary bronchi. This one here, this one here. If I follow that secondary further, I turn into tertiary. And at the end of these, so primary, secondary, tertiary. Another way of saying tertiary is segmental. You don't have to tell me both terms, just one is fine. And once we get off of the segmental or tertiary, now I am talking about this location here. Okay, this is our last, so therefore we call it a terminal bronchiole because that's the last branch. Well, attached to it is the actual air sac. And the air sac is called an alveoli. Alveoli looks like a cluster of grapes. So the respiratory bronchioles are the specific holes coming off of the terminal bronchiole. See the terminal bronchiole and then respiratory bronchiole. And that brings us to the alveolar duct here, which is highlighted in blue. And that goes all the way, or blue is representing the vein, I'm sorry. But underneath the blue, which goes all the way and branches off into all of these air sacs. So air sac. And each one of these, add to your histology. What tissue is this?
Alveolar.
Yeah, but what is it called? The tissue?
Simple squamous.
Simple squamous. Okay, so simple squamous. So the last thing we have to talk about is those lungs. Now we know right and left. Each one of those are lobes. So the right lung has 3 lobes. Superior, middle, inferior. The left lung has 2 lobes because it is smaller and narrower. Superior and inferior. And this gets people all the time for a lab practical. I don't know why. But this is the diaphragm. Without it, you don't get the signal to breathe, right? And remember these muscles, intercostals, external, and what would these be? Internal. This is just a review, which is not on your lab list, but it's for a lecture when we talk about it. This is the sternocleidomastoid, pec minor, the scalenes, and so on and so forth. And muscles aren't on your lab practical for this section. And that's it.